What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. When talking about the Mercedes 722.97G Tronic transmission history, it was introduced in 2004 and it was one of the very first 7-speed automatic transmission available in its day. You can find 722.9 transmission on every Mercedes Benz from 2006 to 2017. It was good to skip off gears during certain downshift operation and help to create a sporty feel and quicker response. It can also help the higher gears to reduce fuel consumption. It allows 7 forward gears and reverse, controlled by the Reynolds assembly and a very complicated system that contains many gear sets. However, the 722.9 transmission have been known to have issues with shifting, and some models had slow shifting as well as harsh downshift when the speed slows nearly to stop. So, in today's video, let's talk about what 722.9 differs from the previous generation transmission 722.6 5-speed transmission. The biggest difference between the 722.6 5-speed and 722.9 7-speed transmission is the transmission control module, the TCU position. 722.9 transmission's TCU is mounted on top of the valve body, and the 722.6 transmission's TCU was installed outside the transmission. Because the TCU sits on top of the valve body, 722.9 is able to reduce the length of the wires between the valve body and the TCU. Furthermore, 722.9 has a great advantage, which is its control unit. The 722.97G Tronic transmission can monitor drivers' driving habits and change the transmission shift point based on the ways you drive. For example, if you are a gentle driver, the transmission will shift faster to keep the RPMs lower. Conversely, if you are an aggressive driver and always step the acceleration hard, you will probably notice that your transmission will stay longer in one gear to increase the RPMs, then shift the gear with high RPMs, so your car will have better dynamic performance. Here you can see the advantage of the Mercedes Benz 722.9 transmission over the previous generation 722.6 transmission. Number 1. Better fuel economy. Number 2. Quicker upshift, downshift gearing. Number 3. More comfortable driving experience. Number 4. Engine RPM and vehicle speed match better. And this is why the 722.97G Tronic transmission can replace the 722.6 5-speed transmission on all Mercedes-Benz models by 2008. But there are still a few common issues remain with this transmission. The majority problems do not require a complete transmission overhaul. Replacing the defective solenoid, conductor plate, or the valve body is all that needs to be performed to fix the problems in the 7-speed transmission. Here are the 7-speed vehicles that use the 7G Tronic 722.9 control module. So, if you are the owner of the models above mentioned, keep reading. Here you will see some common problems with the Mercedes Benz 722.97G Tronic. Number 1. Intermittently not changing gear. Number 2. Gearbox goes into the limp home mode. Number 3. Stuck in gear. Number 4. Gear shifting difficult. If you notice any of these symptoms occur, be careful. The fault usually starts from intermittently. But if you leave it unresolved and keep driving for a long time, it will become a perpetual and harmful problem to your car. The faulty is caused by the TCM conductor plate breaking down internally, preventing the conductor plate from monitoring the correct rotational speed of the input shaft, making it unable to determine when the torque converter needs to slippage, causing the insufficient torque clutch lockup, and next, it will impede a smooth gear change, or in some cases, it almost impedes every gear selections. The 722.9 input and output speed sensors are integrated into the 7G Tronic TCM. So, if one of them fails, whole entire unit needs to be replaced or rebuilt. The information that the sensor provides controls the TCM to determine the right slippage of the torque converters so it can provide a smooth gear shift. But when the TCM or 722.9 speed sensors begin to fail, the transmission operation will become harsh. If the 722.9 TCM VGS problems are not addressed immediately, the computer will put the transmission into the limp hold mode, and it will be stuck in second gear to prevent damage to other transmission parts. Now, let's talk about the meanings and the reasons of common Mercedes 722.97G Tronic conductor plate faulty codes. When you see the P2766, this diagnostic trouble code means the engine control unit, the ECU, has detected a problem with his TSS sensor. P2767, this DTC indicates the ECU isn't receiving a signal from this sensor. P2768 means the signal coming from the TSS sensor is not steady, and the ECU can't formulate a shift strategy. P0717 means the ECU can't communicate with the input speed sensor. And the P0718, this diagnostic trouble code, means there is an intermittent connection between the ECU and the turbine speed sensor. Mercedes 7G Tronic torque converter problem is the most common problem of Mercedes 722.97G Tronic transmission. This condition typically occurs when accelerating from a stop or up an incline. The problem happens when the vehicle shudders or shakes excessively under load. This issue is usually caused by either the dirt getting into the TCC solenoid and preventing it from operating properly, or the cartridges inside the torque converter could be worn hard, which means you will be able to feel them shaking. If this issue happened, you will need to replace a new 722.9 torque converter. Before we say goodbye, let me quickly share with you the 4 tips to keep your Mercedes Benz models healthy. Number 1. Keep your vehicle covered. I know many of you have your own garages or parking space, but if not, remember to keep your vehicle covered and not just in bad weather. While it is obviously that things like heavy rain, hail, and wind-blown debris can damage the body of your car, you should also remember that the sun's rays can cause point of fade. If you want your Benz looking its best, do it a favor and give it some shade whenever possible. If you live in an area where it is difficult to find consistent shade, purchase a car cover. Number 2. Inspect your brakes on a routine basis. Any defects that you spot, such as a worn pad or excessive grooves in the brake drums, should be addressed immediately. Otherwise, you are risking in losing your brakes when you need them most. You can imagine how dangerous it will be. Number 3. 722.9 adopt many electro parts which is dedicated and requires intensive attention. So, remember to let the electrical system inspect regularly by a mechanic that is familiar with Mercedes electrical systems. Number 4. Important to your Mercedes Benz transmission is the condition of the transmission fluid. As most Mercedes Benz vehicles since 2006 do not have the dipsticks enable you to check the fluid yourself, it is important that every time you take your car for routine maintenance, have the mechanics check the transmission fluid. Alright my friends, leave comments below to share with us how you maintain your Mercedes 722.97G Tronic transmission. I hope you will enjoy today's video and I will see you very soon next week. Adios!